So if you have a friend in the community that wanted to see this and didn't have a chance, please let them know that they can find it in the e-blast so that they could watch what we have going on. I have just a couple of opening remarks that I want to give. First of all, you will have noticed that the entire parking lot is empty in the moment, and the water main project on Pawnee is completed. That is actually 6 weeks earlier than we were anticipating it being completed, so that's really great. And I want to lift up, and I'm sure he'll deeply appreciate this, but I want to lift up a huge thank you to Tim Hughes. For the life of the project, every Tuesday morning he was on an 8 a.m. call with the construction crew and our partners over at Fraser, taking the best care of our church and our church facilities. He worked alongside Kyle and others to make sure that what was happening would not leave us without water, would not leave us without our irrigation system, all the different parts and pieces. I know there are other people who are involved in that, but Tim did a lot of the heavy lifting, so thank you, Tim. Secondly, I wanted to just say, because we might have people here who have not heard this whole story, this is our opportunity to really think through the rebuild project. So our rebuild is our relationship with Fraser. They are going to purchase that south portion of our building and our parking lot, and they will be building a residence hall in that space, and then we will shorten our building. So if you go down the office hallway, there's a pretty clear delineation as you get past the offices where the rest of the building to the south will be taken down, and we will kind of re-engage this portion, the north portion of our building. There's a lot of great opportunities within this that relate to getting to redo our music area and our children's area and Barker Hall, and so we're going to dive into all that, so I'm not going to go much further than that, but I just wanted to make sure if anybody is new to this part of our story, we have been working very closely with Fraser. There is a lot coming up. One of the major hurdles that we have is a May 26th Planning Commission meeting. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about ways that you could be a part of that by writing a letter. And you may have seen something on the engagement table, but I'm going to speak about that at the end. Finally, I wanted to do a couple of quick introductions. Scott Rodwin is here from Rodwin Architecture. He works closely with us, meeting with us practically weekly in a variety of forms and answering all of our emails. And then Blake is taking over for Kristen, who has been working with us, who you may have met. She is expecting in June, and so we send her with our well wishes as she gets to take a few months of wonderful time with a new baby. So thanks, Blake and Scott, for being here. And I am going to let Scott start with giving us an architectural overview.
Thank you. Should I advance the slides myself?
No, I was just going to have you speak without slides, and Sarah and I will have slides.
Sounds good. I will be brief. So, architecturally, first of all, the project so far is going well. That's important to know because a lot of projects of this size. Sorry, better? So first of all, I wanted to let you know that architecturally the project is going well. What that means is that you have wonderful leadership. Sarah, Tim, and Megan have done an amazing job conveying the congregation's needs and wants and working with us to keep the project moving forward quickly and efficiently. And I think that the plans themselves are going to yield a facility that will carry you forward for the next 50 years and really improve the functionality, the aesthetics, the flow, and to take care of some of the things that you're really hoping for on the sustainability front with improved energy efficiency, better thermal comfort throughout, and lowering your carbon footprint overall. The main areas of the project are going to be phased, and the reason they're phased is so that we can minimize disruption to church services. Beginning with Barker Hall, and I think, Sarah, you'll go into the phasing plan a little bit more. Barker Hall is roughly a 6,000 square foot remodel project. It includes the kitchens downstairs to improve the function and flow and distribution of food and use for new and improved banquet hall types of facilities and functions. The main stage down below, under our feet here, is being replaced by 3 different meeting rooms of different sizes and configurations. There's also a considerable amount of additional storage, and the remainder is going to be used for the new mechanical system. Shall I do the mechanical system later or now? Okay. One of the most important things to know about the upcoming planning commission that was mentioned earlier is that, as Megan said, we are joined at the hip to the Fraser Meadows project, and we've been going through about a 9-month back and forth with the city at this point. The city has been leaning heavily on Fraser, meaning that they have a lot of comments and a lot of criticisms and things that they would like changed. And Fraser has been responding to those effectively. Part of our job is to maintain a very transparent relationship with the Fraser Meadows team to make sure that what affects them doesn't harm or affect Mountain View as well. To our great relief, after getting 2 rounds of comments back from the city and the 40 pages of comments that Fraser got, we got 1/2 of 1 sentence. So we were, they basically have, just gone right over our head and said, well, you guys look pretty good. So to describe it overall, the main changes, as Megan said, is we're cutting off the south portion of the church. And then we're going to be building a 1,600 square foot 5 office space next to the current, just south of the current entrance. Then we'll be expanding the west end of the narthex towards the west to get a little bit more space, and then remodeling the narthex as well. And then lastly, there are some general infrastructure changes that are happening throughout, including adding insulation to this main sanctuary building, and then redoing the mechanical systems as well, which is probably the single biggest of all the projects. Anything else? Terrific.
All right, now, as I said in worship, you're probably not going to be able to see this as well as you would like to on the screen because the plans are, not meant to be seen from this far away. But I did my best. I cut and pasted and adjusted so that you could see as much as possible. This is the full main floor, so you can see the sanctuary seating at the top, the narthex, and then the new wing of the offices and the music room. And I pulled it out so that you could see it a little bit more. This is just the sanctuary and then the narthex space. There's just a couple of things I want to lift up in this sanctuary. We will be working on the balcony. That's one of our hopes, is to take out the solid wall on the balcony and instead put in a railing so that the people who are in the balcony can feel more connected to the worshiping community. And that would be true for concerts as well as us when we gather. On top of that, we are going to move Scott's sound booth from down here at the bottom to the top of the balcony, because one of the things, if you've spent time in the balcony, you can't use that north side because you can't see over the sound booth. So if we move it to the top, that's going to help out. In the narthex, we have expanded a little bit to the west. We are putting in a new entry space that will be substantially larger. And then we're adjusting some of those spaces to better fit our needs, have a little bit more seating, and utilize the space in a slightly better way. So here's a couple of renderings that Rodwin has put together, and I just want to name every picture or design that you're seeing in this is Rodwin's work, and I have totally inappropriately cut off their name off every picture so that it could be as large as possible on the screen. So please know all of this come directly from Rodwin. So this is our balcony, as you could see from where I'm standing, with the new railing, and you can see also that sound booth has been moved to the top. This is the viewpoint from the top of the balcony looking down into the sanctuary, and you get substantially more sight lines, especially into the rest of the congregation, hopefully really increasing that relational connection between us and people sitting upstairs. This is the underneath part, the chapel, as some of us know it, of the balcony. And one of the things that we're going to do is take the we're hoping to take the tongue and groove wood paneling that's in the view room and bring it to use underneath there so that we can extend this beautiful wood that's around the sanctuary even into our chapel space, making it feel a little bit warmer and a little bit more contextual for that space. So, and then the back stairs, if you've been around for a long time, you may use those back stairs. If you haven't, you might not even know there's stairs over there. But that go down to Barker, we are gonna close those off. It will still go upstairs, but it will not come downstairs because that is going to become a storage space downstairs that's really gonna give us a lot of room for storing tables and chairs and other necessary items around the building, which would be great because right now, as you know, we store all of our chairs and tables in Barker just along the north side. So we'll have a place to put them. So you're seeing that a little bit in this photo, how we've closed off the downstairs space. I'm gonna let Sarah talk about offices.
All right, so the offices you will get to by going through the narthex, basically where the door is right now, and continue to the south. And there will be this lovely new office suite. And one thing it will have, obviously, is 5 offices for all of our main staff members. But the other thing it will have that you can see sort of at the top of the photo, or the drawing, is a big meeting space. It'll be a big conference table that'll hold about 14 people with nice comfy chairs. It'll have a full AV system so we can use it, we hope, as one of our main meeting spaces. It should be really lovely with a nice view of the mountains. And then, let's see here. So this is what the meeting space will look like. So this is as though you are just walking into it from the narthex, and you will see the meeting space to your right, and you'll see the offices more or less in front of you. And then this is from the top of the conference table looking back toward the narthex. So you'll see that there's the big connection point, that the big door that will allow nice connection between the two spaces. To the right, you will see that there's a little kitchenette space. So for instance, that is where there will be a couple of little fridges, there will be storage space, there will be coffee, there will be all sorts of things. And then you'll also see that there are windows out to the new entry space that will be there. I think that's Kyle's office that you see on the right there, that wooden desk space with a window, so that when people come into the building, they are greeted by a nice smiling face.
I'll remind Kyle that that's his responsibility. A nice smiling face. The other part of the main floor is the music wing. And so the large room that you can see on this image is our new music room. And the great part about this is that this room is really large. It's gonna be big enough that we're gonna be able to do recitals and small concerts in this space. We are gonna move the baby grand piano that's downstairs in Barker up to the music space. So instead of using an electric piano in our choir room, we'll have a full piano. And then we can have things, you know, like just this weekend, Suzuki did their recitals here in the sanctuary, but it's a fairly small gathering, and this will really give them an opportunity to have a space that maybe fits them a little bit better. So we can work not only for our own community, but with the various groups that rent our space. We are moving the music file room from downstairs in Barker to upstairs into the music room. And then there's a lot of storage. And so we actually have worked directly with Brian to have Rodwin measure out every square foot of storage so that we knew exactly how much we have now and how much we would have when we moved. And Brian is feeling confident about it, as am I. The other thing I would just name while we're on this picture is that we do have a plan for redoing the elevator. And we will be replacing the elevator. It will be in the same place as it currently is, so the general vestibule, etc., will look the same, but we will have a new elevator that doesn't make that weird sound. We do not have renderings like photos for every area, so where we have them, I've shared them, and where we don't, we will in the future. All right, Sarah.
And part of the reason that we don't have renderings yet for some parts of the building is because we are phasing it, right? We're going to do Barker first, so we know the most about what's going downstairs. And as we get farther into it, we will have more detail. So the downstairs will be Barker Hall, and also the lower level over there, which is currently the offices, will be the children and family wing. So Barker itself will, let's see, the major changes are, you know how there's the wall that goes in front of the kitchen? That wall will go away. The kitchen itself, which is a warming center, it is not a kitchen. Nowhere will it be called a kitchen because the city of Boulder will go bananas about that. So the kitchen is called a warming center, and that's why. But the wall in front of it will go away, so there will now be the stainless steel counter that is in front of the kitchen will extend in a little bit into the hallway space. So there will be a little more serving space there. And then you will see the two rectangles that are vertical in that photo. Those are going to be permanent serving tables. And so they're going to have a nice quartzite top on them that's super durable. They will have lots of electric outlets in there that are on different circuits so that when we have a potluck dinner, we won't blow the fuses. Well, I guess we don't have fuses anymore, but you take my point. Anyway, so those will be permanent. They will have cabinets underneath. They will actually have openings so that the carts that have dishes on them can be rolled straight up to it, unload, super easy. On the other side, you will see where the new meeting rooms are. So that's where the storage room, the stage, and the music storage room, those three items go away and become three really nice meeting spaces, which I have pictures that I will show you in a moment. So this is what it looks like with furniture in it. It's the exact same drawing you just saw. This is not necessarily how we will configure these tables, but the goal was to see if all the tables and chairs that we have right now that we use for maximum big things downstairs, will they fit? Yes, they fit really nicely. One thing we're going to do is leave the pew on the north wall because people have said that's really nice seating, and it's history, so we're leaving it. And then a little bit you can see the layout of those various meeting spaces. That middle one is what I'm calling New Fraser. The south one is like a 12, 14 person, and the north one is 8 to 10, so that's a more intimate space. So this is as though your back is to the warming station, looking toward the new meeting spaces. And you'll see that we're going for a nice warm flooring, and I have a sample out there that you can see. You'll see the pretty colors on the back walls, and you'll get a little more detail on that in a second. We're going to clad the posts to warm it up. We're going to do interesting things on the ceiling, not necessarily what you're seeing there. One of the things we are hyper aware of is sound. And so the meeting rooms will be very, very well insulated on the ceilings, on the walls, on the floors to prevent sound carrying from one space to another. The floors in Barker will be acoustic to suck up sound from feet, and the ceiling will be acoustic to suck up sound going into the sanctuary. That's the other benefit of closing off this staircase in the back, is that it prevents sound from going up and down. This is a rendering of the new Fraser. I cannot promise you it will look precisely like this, but this is sort of what we're going toward. You'll see it has a nice warm carpet on the floor. Again, I have a sample out there. It has built-in bookshelves and cabinetry in the back, and we've been working with the UMW folks about making sure that they have enough space to store their books, and we believe there will be more than enough. And then we can put a gigantic TV on that south wall so that you can see things, hear things, and that'll have full AV capability.
So then, as we move to the south in the basement, we get into the family ministries. Now, there is a portion between Barker Hall that you were just looking at and this image that we're looking at now. It is what is existing between Barker Hall and the offices. So it is the boiler room, the bathrooms, and a couple of other rooms that are not being changed. So I didn't put them on this image, but if you look at the big images that are in the narthex, you'll see that transition space exactly as you currently experience it. So in the children and family area, we have a couple of specific things I want to lift up. We again have worked directly with Larissa to try to make sure that we have enough storage, that we're really thinking about what things need to be put different places. There is a children's bathroom that is next to the nursery, so that will serve both the children and youth room, but also if we were to have kids in the nursery, there would be a direct access to a single stall bathroom. There is storage right along both of these big rooms. You can see two different large storage closets. And then importantly, the wall between these two rooms, what is currently named youth room and teen room, if you can see those tiny letters up there, is actually youth room and children's room. That wall is not permanent. So it can be moved out so that we have one larger space, or it can be put up so that we have two spaces at a time. Again, we're really trying to think as hard as we can about sound and how we deal with sound disbursement, but this gives us a lot of flexibility for Larissa, for our children and our youth, and for other programs that are in that space to utilize that area. One of the things that we've really thought about is that is a space that would uniquely work well for our NA and AA groups that meet here. And so we've done a couple of things. Above the room on what you're seeing as the right, there's an egress hall, and that actually takes you to a door that goes directly outside. So people can come in and out through that door without having to go all the way through the building, which is something that we know our NA and AA groups deeply appreciate about the south end of the building currently. That's also really nice for our children's program because if you go out that door and up the ramp, you are right at the new children's play space that is between us and the Fraser building. So there will be an opportunity for kids to still have access to some play space, for some outside space, and the little bit of grass that will still remain will be at the top of that space. We do have a nursery. The youth are still gonna have a built-in space to keep their snacks, which they're very excited about. On that egress hall, we're putting in some really nice shelving units that is gonna help Larissa store some of her more consistent use items. And then she's got a storage room off the nursery that will replace our current storage room down the south hallway, if you're familiar with where we keep children's program ministry items. All right. So those are the basics. Obviously, there is lots more information out in the hallway, and I would be happy to walk through any of that, or you can ask Scott or Sarah or members of the team. Tim knows a lot, Renelle knows a lot, Paul McClung knows a lot, Bonnie knows a lot. Everybody who has been on this team has walked through these plans time and time and time again. So please, take a chance to ask some questions. And I'm gonna have Scott speak for just a minute about the HVAC and geothermal.
Thank you. So just a shout out to your green team with Fred and Arthur and Tim in particular. They have really done an extraordinary amount of work to help us to understand how the building works and to put together a report that frankly exceeds what our mechanical engineers are capable of doing because of their expertise in understanding how energy works and how your building performs. So that's the start of that. The upshot is that we're shooting for a dramatic improvement to your overall sustainability and energy performance in the building, starting with adding significant insulation to the outside of the main sanctuary. All of that is to help enable the proper sizing of the mechanical system. Our general premise has been that we are working with a ground source heat pump, which is also known as a geothermal system. And the way that it works, just in case you're curious, is that we have essentially wells. bores placed all around the church, and that those distribute a heating and cooling liquid medium through pipes into those wells that then is dispersed into the earth. And then we have a heat exchanger essentially down in the basement right over there, in place of your current boiler, either extracting those therms, the energy from the earth, or dispersing therms back into the earth in order to help cool the space. We've been going around, every project has certain areas that are stickier than others, or main area of investigation. The mechanical system has been one of those for Mountain View. In particular, we know that the intention overall is to be as sustainable as possible, to lower our carbon footprint, and to eliminate the global warming gas potential of any cooling system that we're using. So we have been defaulting towards as much geothermal as possible. However, you have a couple of legacy systems, specifically, three. You have your boiler, which runs around the heat radiators around the perimeter right now. You have a swamp cooler or evaporative cooler that's sitting outside the building over there and is being dispersed and blowing into the space through those louvers you see right behind me. And then the third is in the narthex. You have what's called a rooftop unit, which is just a large metal unit that can both heat and cool. And we're trying to figure out what the most economical and sensible combination of all those units are. And it's a tricky combination because when you take older units that don't speak as intelligently as the ground source heat pump would, we have to combine all of those. Also, there is some value still attached to those units. So just overall know that we're going through some detailed final calculations, but the primary system for the church will be a ground source heat pump system. And the only caveat to that is we don't want to throw away valuable systems that are already in place if they're still working well and functional. Any questions about the mechanical systems? Yes. Did you have a question? Yes. Oh, no. Oh, I thought I saw a hand go up. Anybody? Yeah.
The water table under Fraser is pretty high, or it has been. Are we dealing with that?
Yep. So actually, it's worth noting that ground source heat pumps do just fine with water. Matter of fact, the wetter the soil, the more conductivity it has, and the more efficiently it works.
So my understanding is one of our big problems right now is the boilers, and that they're expensive. If they break, it costs a lot of money. It sounds like you're talking about these legacy systems. One of them is a boiler that we're still going to have. So could that still break, and are we going to have to face some giant repair cost on that 5 years from now or something like that?
So yes, we are absolutely looking at what is the likely lifespan of the remaining systems. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds here because you've got really good representatives from the church that are experts, PhDs, and Tim in particular just has an incredible understanding of how the system works. Bottom line is, we have not decided which legacy systems will remain yet. We're still getting our engineers to come up with a preliminary spec for 3 different systems, and then we're going to have those bid out in the process. Part of the issue is that the mechanical systems are only a small part of the budget. We want to make sure that we stay, in general, under your budget, but things can often move from bucket to bucket within that overall budget. So as we go through this exercise, our construction company, Sky Castle Construction, is concurrently running estimates as we go through the process to help us generally stay on target. So until we have our concrete estimates, we won't know exactly which things are going to stay in and out, but I would say it is likely that the boiler will go away because it is at the end of its useful life. It is probable that the RTU, the rooftop unit, will likely stay to serve the narthex, but to be determined. The ground source heat pump will likely serve the sanctuary and may serve the existing the new south building and potentially the new offices. We're also considering air source heat pumps just because there's an incredible rebate offered from Excel on air source heat pumps right now. The number of factors that go into determining what the best combination of systems for you is very complex, changing quickly, and you've got really good representatives that are making sure that we're stewarding your finances as best as we can. Any other questions? Yes. Oh, sorry, I didn't talk about the outside of the building. There are a few things happening on the outside of the building. Most of you know that the parking lot is changing. A lot of it is actually going over to Fraser. There will be a new drop-off area. Handicap accessible parking will still be placed right next to the front door, along with more new electric car chargers as well. The rest of the parking will be in the basement of the Fraser building with a handicap accessible elevator and a nice easy path over to the church. The labyrinth is a complex issue. There is a detention pond that is required for the project, and we've been working extensively with Fraser and their architects and landscape architects to create a bermed seating area that looks down into the labyrinth area, and that serves as the detention pond, but it'll be beautifully landscaped as though it's essentially a park. And then the last thing that I didn't mention is that we're going to be adding a spire. One of the first things that I noticed when I came to the church is that you have a really strong, symbology with the cross, but you don't have any on the outside of the building, on the front side of the building. So we said, would you like a spire? And Sarah and Tim and Megan said, that sounds like a terrific idea. And one of the things that we really loved about it is how it balances the front and anchors it. It becomes a wayfinding point, so you can tell people, oh, the front door, it's right by the spire. It just makes it easy to know where the front door is. It's a little hard to see in the rendering this far away, but yeah, it's about 25 feet tall. Any final questions? Yes.
Is the project Energy Star certified?
It's going to be dramatically better than Energy Star. So we've been doing LEED Platinum and Energy Star buildings our entire career. I don't know specifically which level of Energy Star it is likely to hit. 3.2. It's getting into the weeds and the nerdy stuff, but for all intents and purposes, it will substantially exceed basic Energy Star. We're going to be shooting for a radical transformation of the energy performance of the building with the intention of becoming as close as possible to a net zero energy building. Yes?
Do we keep the solar panels when you install?
Yes. So the solar panels are about 16 years old, I believe. 14 years old, close. They have a pretty good orientation. I would say there is the possibility of adding future solar panels on the flat roof portions of the building. It doesn't have to be in the first phase, but it could be, again, to try to get to as close as possible to net zero. What's worth noting is that while these face south, they're very steeply sloped, which is good for winter, but you get most of your solar energy in the sun, in the summer, in which case you want them a little bit flatter. These panels, it is intended that these will stay after the re-roofing. They'll be remounted to the roof. But it's not to say that you couldn't have additional panels in the future.
How many parking spaces will we have compared to how many we have right now?
I think we have 17 above ground, like in the surface lot, and there are 62, last I saw, underground. So that is fewer than we have now, but it was the total, it's more than the total we were going for, plus there is still street parking.
Where are those 62 going to be?
In the parking garage, so when you come into our parking lot, if you need to drop someone off, you can, just go straight ahead, drop them off, and then keep going, and then that direction, or you can come straight in and go right, and that's where the underground parking is. It's right there.
It'll be under Fraser.
It is under Fraser's parking garage. I don't know that it's specifically under the building, but it's somewhere in between.
So you'll be able to enter from the south.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and there's a nice walkway, there's a staircase, and there's an elevator. So you have a couple options for how to get out and across. It should be shorter, it will be shorter than if you're parked in the south end of the lot. Yeah?
Ask a question from way back. But what you're doing with the balcony, which is great, I love the open thing. Are there any concerns
Can we go to the rendering? So you might have noticed in the rendering, the metal bars are vertical, which makes it very difficult for kids to climb. The spacing of the bars has a maximum gap of 4 inches, which is too small for any child to slide through, even toddlers. That's actually the code required so that toddlers can't get through specifically. It's okay. But yes, we looked at, for example, the reason we didn't do horizontal railings is because kids can use it as a ladder and climb up. So we did the vertical bars so that they can't climb it.
No.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Wouldn't it be great if we knew exactly what the timeline was and we could read the picture? Well, the biggest thing is that on May 26th, we have the Planning Commission meeting, and that really sets the timeline moving forward. So there is an invitation both in this week's e-blast as well as if you'd like a paper copy on the engagement table about a way that you could write a letter to the Planning Commission discussing your commitment to Mountain View, our work in our ministries, and the way that resizing our building to best utilize our space will help us continue to be part of not just this neighborhood, but the Boulder community, and that it will continue to support our ministries for a long and wonderful life of Mountain View. So I would love to invite you all to do that. Those letters need to be in by May 20th, and the pertinent information is either in the e-blast or on the sheet of paper on the engagement table. You do need to pick it up because you need a specific thing in your subject line. If we receive the 4 up votes at a minimum that we need on May 26th, then the project moves forward at a fairly rapid pace. There's quite a few things that we actually already have in place for when that happens. So we have put together, the Rodwin and Boulder Associates, which is the architecture team for Fraser, have put together what's called our tech docs, which is our next phase of what we have to turn into the city after we get approval for the project. And that would be already prepared so we can move forward with that immediately. Part of that will be then understanding the division of our land between us and Fraser. And that also would include some ongoing conversations that we're having, that Sarah and I specifically are having, about our legal agreements moving forward for our shared use and easement agreements on our property and their property. And so there are some really important things kind of happening behind the scenes just to make sure that we are prepared for when we are ready to submit tech docs. Alongside that, we're working really closely with Rodwin and with Sky Castle, which is the construction side, to get our site design and costs under our belt so that we know where we are from where we've budgeted. And with that, we will then be able to determine how we can move forward. We have a team that's working on interior design. Thank you to everyone who is a part of that. I know you're giving a lot of your extra time for that. So we are already, as Sarah pointed out, looking at those different finishes that are going in spaces. Our hope is to move immediately or as quickly as possible on Barker. Because ideally, what would happen is that we would have the predominant changes in Barker done before we take down the south end of the building. We would be able to then utilize those classrooms even while the south end of the building is taken down. Now, the south end currently is slated to be deconstructed in February, and that will actually start with a few different dates after Christmas. So we're looking somewhere around January 2nd to February 15th of 2027 would be a deconstruction line for us. And from there, we'll figure out what those next steps look like. As far as the phasing goes, we are working with Rodwin to figure out what phases help us as a community both stay rooted in our sanctuary space, how we are most comfortable as we move around the building and work on this geothermal project, and how we utilize our partnership with Fraser. So if there are times when we can't worship here in the sanctuary, that there are other places in our community that we can worship together, and that there's opportunity for us to maintain that partnership. So I think that answers your question, but I don't actually know. If for some reason on May 26th we don't get those 4 votes, The vote will then go to, but we will ask for it to be taken up by the city council. They, I believe what I heard the other day is have 60 days to put it on their agenda. And then there are follow-up steps from that. So we would keep you all informed if that is what occurs. Lynn.
Is the approval of our project tied to approval of Fraser's project? Is it all one?
Yes. The question was, is our project tied to Fraser's project as far as approval goes? And the answer is yes.
And the other thing is, what about the vacation of Ponca? Has that been settled?
No, the other question was, what about the vacation of Ponca, which is making Ponca no longer a public road, making it a private road. In order to submit the request for that, we had to move the water main. So Fraser took on moving the water main, and now we are in process with the city to find out if they're going to go ahead and approve that street becoming a private street. I would say the pieces of our project that are not fully reliant on Fraser's project are the totally internal. So we can actually move forward with the changes in Barker before we see certain other changes in the larger project, because they're internal to just us. All right, one more, Arthur.
Will the files be available for us to look at in more detail, like a PDF or something?
Absolutely. If you want a copy of them, you can ask me. I just want you to know they're big, and I have lots and lots of them because Rodwin has been outstanding. So if you want to look at physical copies, they'll be available for the next 3 weeks in the narthex. If you want to look at digital copies, just let me know, and I can get specific people a couple copies of them. All right, I want to be respectful of your time. I deeply appreciate you all staying here to hear all this. I want to say a huge thank you to Sarah and every member of the Rebuild team. I was remiss because I didn't name that Mark is on this team. Did I miss anybody else? Ugh. I didn't write it down. Chris Fluelling is on this team. I'm sorry, Chris. I should have had that on my notes. I apologize. But legitimately, there's a ton of people who are giving time and energy and effort to this. I'm super excited, actually, to share with you the ideas that Bonnie and Jean and I have been considering for what we're going to do to honor the ministries of the south end of the building and how we're going to come together as a community to do that worshipful work. So I look forward to us gathering, but go and be sent, and I hope you all have a wonderful week.